Sarah hadn't been on a date in 3 years. Not since her husband walked out when Emma was just 2 years old. Now at 32, she had stopped believing in second chances. Her days were filled with work at the library and evenings helping Emma with homework. Romance felt like something from another lifetime. "Mommy, why do you always say no when Aunt Linda tries to set you up?" Emma asked one Saturday morning. The 5-year-old was braiding her doll's hair with surprising concentration. Sarah looked up from her coffee. "Because, sweetheart, some people are meant to be alone, and that's okay. But you're not alone, you have me," Emma said matter-of-factly. "And I have you, and that makes me the luckiest mom in the world." Sarah pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. But Emma had inherited her father's stubbornness. When Linda called again about setting Sarah up with someone from her husband's company, Sarah politely declined, as always. What she didn't know was that Emma had been listening from the hallway. 2 weeks later, on a crisp autumn evening, Emma came running into the kitchen. "Mom, we need to go now," the little girl announced, grabbing Sarah's hand. "Go where, honey? I'm making dinner." "To the fancy restaurant downtown Aunt Linda said." Sarah's heart dropped. "Emma, what did you do?" "I called Aunt Linda on your phone when you were in the shower. Last week, I said yes to the date for you." Before Sarah could protest, Emma was pulling her toward the bedroom. "Please, Mommy, just this once I picked out your pretty beige dress." Looking into those pleading blue eyes, Sarah felt her resolve crumbling. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to try just once. 30 minutes later, they walked into the elegant restaurant hand in hand. The chandeliers cast a warm glow over dark wood paneling and white tablecloths. Sarah's palms were sweating. A hostess approached them, but before she could speak, Sarah spotted something unusual across the room. A man in a sharp gray suit was being pulled along by a young boy. The boy couldn't have been more than 6 years old, with light brown hair and determination written all over his face. The man looked just as uncomfortable as Sarah felt. Their eyes met across the restaurant. There was a moment of recognition, not of each other, but of their shared predicament. The hostess led Sarah and Emma to a table. As they sat down, Sarah watched the man and boy stop at the very next table. The boy climbed into his chair and looked directly at Emma. "Hi, I'm Oliver," he said with a gap-toothed grin. "I'm Emma, and this is my mom." The man cleared his throat. "I'm James Mitchell," he said, extending his hand to Sarah. His handshake was firm, but his smile was genuine and a bit sheepish. "Sarah Bennett, and I think we've both been set up by our children." James laughed a real laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "I thought I was the only one. My son overheard me talking to my sister about being too busy for dating. He took matters into his own hands, called her back, and accepted on my behalf. Emma did exactly the same thing," Sarah said, shaking her head in disbelief. The children looked at each other and giggled. "Can we sit together?" Oliver asked. "Our tables are right next to each other anyway." James looked at Sarah. "Would that be terribly inappropriate for a blind date we didn't actually agree to?" "I think that ship has sailed," Sarah said, smiling. They pushed the tables together. Over dinner, Sarah learned that James was the CEO of a mid-sized tech company. But more importantly, she learned that he became a single father 4 years ago when his wife passed away from cancer. He spoke about her with such tenderness that Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "The first year, I barely kept it together," James admitted. "I had this high-pressure job and a 2-year-old who kept asking when Mommy was coming home." "I'm so sorry," Sarah said quietly. "It's okay, we've learned to carry it together, Oliver. And me, he's taught me more about resilience than any business school ever could." Sarah shared her own story. How her husband left without explanation. How she rebuilt her life piece by piece. How Emma gave her a reason to keep going on the hardest days. As they talked, the children colored on the paper placemats the restaurant provided. They were already fast friends. "You know what's funny?" James said as dessert arrived. I had convinced myself I was protecting Oliver by not dating that he needed stability, not someone new walking in and out his life. I told myself the same thing about Emma, Sarah replied. But maybe we were really just protecting ourselves. James nodded slowly. It's scary, isn't it, letting someone in again when you've lost so much? Terrifying, Sarah agreed. But sitting here in this warm restaurant with her daughter happily chattering away, and this kind, thoughtful man across from her, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. As the evening wound down, James walked them to their car. Oliver held Emma's hand, skipping alongside her. I know this wasn't exactly how either of us planned to spend our evening, James said, but I'm glad we did. Would you maybe want to do this again sometime intentionally this time? Sarah smiled. I think I'd like that. Emma tugged on Sarah's dress. See, Mommy, I told you it would be okay. James ruffled Oliver's hair. Looks like our kids are smarter than we are. Looks like it, Sarah agreed. As they drove home, Emma fell asleep in the back seat, a small smile on her face. Sarah glanced at her in the rear-view mirror. Sometimes life gives you a second chance when you least expect it. Sometimes it comes from the smallest hands with the biggest hearts. And sometimes all you have to do is trust enough to take that first step, even if you're being pulled along by a determined 5-year-old. 3 months later, Sarah and James still laughed about that first night, the night their children decided they deserved happiness. And you know what, those kids were absolutely right.